But this TFL Studios live show is brought to you guys, of course, by TFLbids.com. But we have news, big news on this show as well.
What's the news?
Well, first of all, Hyundai has announced the pricing for all of their models of the Santa Cruz Sport Adventure vehicle, which is their little pickup.
Nice.
So that's news. Also, there's some sad news that we already published on TFLnow.
Yep, about the death of a Ford truck.
Yeah, F-150 diesel is going away. And then we also have some information about the Land Cruiser from overseas, the new one.
Very cool.
And of course, we're selling a couple of trucks, a truck and an SUV actually today.
That's right, yeah. So over at TFL Bids, we've got two vehicles, a 97 GMC Sierra K1500 and an older Hummer H3, and we will see how much those sell for over at TFL Bids. But Andre, should we dive right in with the big news of the day?
Yeah, let's do it because it just came out, just hot off the presses, just maybe a couple of hours ago. So Hyundai, so everybody's been waiting for this, right? You and Roman went to the Santa Cruz unveiling event, right? And it was a lot of fun. We learned a lot. We learned all the powertrains, the numbers, the payloads, the towing. You crawled all over it, right? But we didn't know the price until just now. And it starts at $23,990 before destination charge. And with destination charge, it starts at $25,175.
All right, so how does that fit into this new compact pickup truck market? So far this vehicle really only has one competitor, which is the upcoming Ford Maverick, the little Ford truck.
Yes.
That one is more affordable. What's the starting price on the Maverick?
So before destination on the Maverick, it's $19,995, which is pretty remarkable because that Maverick price includes their hybrid powertrain.
Right.
Both of these starting prices, the Santa Cruz and the Maverick, are front-wheel drive only. But the Maverick has a higher destination charge,
Okay.
which is worth noting. So the base price on the Maverick is $22,490
With destination?
with destination, which is about $2,700 less still, $2,700 less than the Santa Cruz.
Interesting. So what about the top end of the Santa Cruz? So if I wanted the big engine with the all-wheel drive and all the goodies, what would I pay?
Yeah, so the higher powered engine is a 2.5-liter turbo in the Santa Cruz with an 8-speed dual clutch transmission and all-wheel drive. And they have this special model called the Limited. Okay?
Whoa.
Very, very luxurious Limited. And the price on that is $39,720. And with destination, it's just over 40 grand, actually almost 41 grand, 40,905 is the fully loaded Santa Cruz, dude.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's now in the $40,000 range.
I mean, you're well into mid-size truck territory then.
Yes, you can buy many four-wheel drive mid-sizers for that. You could buy some full-size trucks for that.
So how does that compare to the Ford? Like, what does the Maverick top out at? What's the
Maverick,
EcoBoost, all-wheel drive, all the goodies?
Yeah, the Maverick, so if you want all-wheel drive, you have to step up to the 2-liter turbo in the Maverick. And then there is a more luxurious model called, the Lariat in the Maverick lineup. And then there's a first edition, which is a special model, which is a little bit more expensive. So that price with destination is about 36 grand, 36,310, and you can add a couple of more things to it for about 37,000.
Okay, so also, a few thousand less than the Hyundai.
Like 2,500 less, yeah.
So the Maverick has a standard power train that's a hybrid. Both are front-wheel drive standard.
Yes.
Both have optional all-wheel drive.
Yes.
The Hyundai, if you get the more powerful Hyundai engine with the turbo, it's got a lot more power.
Yes, and more towing.
And more towing.
Yes.
The Maverick we're thinking is going to be more fuel efficient. I think numbers are out on that too, right?
Yeah, the fuel efficiency numbers, you can also learn all about this at TFLtruck.com website. The Maverick is approaching 40 mpg, which is pretty amazing for a front-wheel drive.
Right.
Only model. And that's because of the hybrid, basically a hybrid system that sometimes can actually drive on electricity alone. It figures it out for you. There is no electric only button. You cannot just push it and go electric. It'll figure it out for you. And of course, in the mid-20s mpg level is the Santa Cruz.
Now, I will say, so I did have a chance to sit in and kind of play with both for a little bit. They were stationary. I didn't drive them, but I did get to play with the features and the cool things on them. I was in an XLT Maverick, and I was in a more high-end Hyundai. It's worth noting. The Hyundai feels a lot more premium. It's a lot more upmarket. The design on the interior is much kind of more elaborate. The Ford is very kind of basic and chunky, which is going to appeal to some people. The Hyundai felt a lot nicer. The quality materials, the dash materials, the seat materials, they were all much more premium than the Ford I sat in. And then you also get the bed trunk on the Hyundai as well, the integrated tonneau cover. So even though the Hyundai's more expensive, it does offer some features that are not available on the Ford. Now the Ford feels a lot more truck-like. Feels kind of like a small Ranger, very blocky, and certainly a lot of the plastics in the XLT were a little bargain basement. Didn't have the bed trunk. I think it's a steel bed, right, on the Maverick?
Correct, yeah.
Right, so kind of much more primitive in that sense.
Yeah.
But I'll be curious to see what people do when it comes to actually purchasing one.
Yeah, and by the way, of course, a lot of you has joined us. Thank you, Dan, Ron, Alex, Lorenzo, Mario, Gage, Justin, Jason. Thank you for joining. Of course, Wayne and everybody else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you're interested in selling your used truck or your cool off-roader, check out TFLbids.com. Currently, we've got a really cool 1997 GMC, which we'll be selling here shortly. It's pulling some pretty strong numbers. The reserve has been met. It's up to $6,100 with 22 minutes remaining. These OBS Chevys have just really exploded in popularity within the last, I would say, few months even. But good old 5.7 Vortec V8, reliable engine.
Low miles.
Low miles.
Yeah, 103,000 miles approximately.
Absolutely. And the cool thing about the OBS Chevys is at one time, like the square bodies were the affordable, cool classic truck to collect, but now those have gotten so expensive, right? So people have realized that the 1990s trucks, a little bit more modern in their design, but still have the old school charm with the basic small block V8s, and those have really come up in value and popularity. So I think now is a good time to buy an OBS, old body style Chevy Silverado or GMC Sierra. And we also have a Hummer for sale, which is, well, we don't. Someone is selling a Hummer. It's an H3. Very cool little rig. It's a 3.7 liter 5-cylinder.
And it hasn't quite met its reserve. So, but if you are looking for an H3, this is a great one. And also about 109,000 miles on this one. So also not very high mileage.
Yep.
For what now an 11 or 12-year-old Hummer H3.
So check out TFLbids.com if you want to buy one of these vehicles or perhaps list your own.
Yeah, and we also have several more auctions also available now, but they're closing next week.
Right.
Right. So we have all of those as well.
So let's move on. What's the next news, Andre?
Well, the next news, so I wanted to bring this up because there was a lot of comments about this on the website and on the video, is that Ford decided to no longer offer the F-150 Power Stroke diesel in the F-150 is no longer. So some people are saying, yeah, they saw it coming. Some people are sad about this, right? Some people are, wanted to see, turbo diesel power continue. But here's what happened, right? So Ford released that engine in the F-150 in about 2018 model year. We actually tested it thoroughly. We towed with it, we went off-road with it, we did several videos with the F-150 diesel. Then they all were initially only offering it in the upper trim levels. So it was a very expensive engine option. Then they actually, when they introduced the 2021 F-150, the next generation truck, they continued it. They said, hey, it's going to be still available. The 3-liter diesel is still going to be there, and they didn't change its power. They didn't give it an inverter system. While there's a hybrid now, there's 2 EcoBoost trucks, 2.7 and 3.5, and there's a 5-liter. And of course, the Raptor is coming, and the next year, the Lightning electric truck is coming. So it seemed like a lot of things stacked up. The F-150 hybrid has now more power, it's quicker, it's actually more efficient in the city than the diesel, and it's actually a little bit less expensive. So all those factors, I think, combined, and the diesel F-150 is dead. Yeah,
it's a sad day. What did you think of that engine? Why did it die? Sorry, hang on. Oh my goodness.
Are you okay?
I'm sorry, I'm dying over here. Yeah, we've got this big fire right now going on in Idaho. It's blowing all this smoke over, and my allergies are just like, so I apologize.
The entire Southwest is burning
right
now.
I'm sorry if you're impacted by that, but yeah, it's a hard time to be in the Southwest.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's getting still hot and dry and wildfires. So,
anyways, Feels so much better. Thank you for letting me cough. Sorry, folks of the audience. I didn't mean to ruin your eardrums with that. But talk to me about why the 3-liter diesel is no more.
So it was actually a shared engine. So it's shared with Land Rover.
Right.
Right. So it has a lot of common parts. It was actually not a terrible engine. So it was relatively quiet, smooth, but it didn't quite deliver the power and efficiency of the competitors. So that was an issue. When we tested it, it worked great on the highway. I think it's a great highway cruiser, which most diesels are. If you're buying a turbo diesel truck, and you're doing a lot of miles of road trips, diesels are great for that, even when towing. So it was okay for that, but it just never shined. It was never best at something. It was not the most efficient diesel in the class. It wasn't, it towed quite a lot. It was rated to tow about 12,000. So that was good, but it was never like the quickest or the quietest. It didn't have anything super special about it.
I think one of the issues with the diesels, specifically in the half-ton class, is they have to do something better than the gasoline equivalent.
Or a lot better.
It's
actually
not enough just to have an engine that sounds cool, right, but doesn't actually excel in either towing or fuel economy, because the fact of the matter is you've got extra costs associated with running a diesel nowadays, not only with DEF, but typically more expensive in terms of maintenance, oil changes, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's got to have something to justify the additional cost, especially over an equivalent gasoline motor. And I just don't think that the 3-liter really brought that to the table. I didn't like it that much when I drove it last in a Range Rover. I mean, it has a fine power and torque curve, but it's not anything exceptional. It sounds kind of cool, but it doesn't sound nearly as cool as like the straight 6 GM engines or like a Cummins.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This whole like V6 diesel thing has never really worked for me. I've never really understood the appeal.
Yeah, and it was one of their most expensive engine options, right?
It's kind of, you know what it's like?
Yeah.
Do you remember when Nissan did the Cummins in the
5-liter.
Titan? Yeah. I've got this theory where little diesels are very good because little diesels are very efficient, right?
So like a 4-cylinder.
Like in a Colorado diesel, you get really good fuel economy, decent torque. And the really big diesels make a lot of sense because they tow and haul a lot. So the Power Stroke, the Duramax, the big Cummins.
Yeah.
But when you have this like medium-sized diesel, they don't really excel in fuel economy. They don't really excel in towing. So you're kind of left with this weird, well, I'm paying more, but it's not giving me a whole lot. I don't know, just my 2 cents.
Because that Cummins V8 diesel was also not very, remarkably efficient or fast, right? It didn't have those things.
Plus, I think that the whole Jaguar Land Rover connection with the Ford diesel kind of confused some folks.
And the Land Rover discontinued the engine also.
Right.
So for 2022, the Land Rover and the Range Rover SUVs no longer have that engine either. So maybe they're going to repurpose that factory that built those engines and do something else with it.
So some comments, you got to make room for the Lightning. That's what you said.
Yes. Dan Atkinson is loading diesel tractors on his trailer. So thank you for listening, Dan, while actually working. So that's awesome.
Right. What's the next news, Andre?
So there's another thing that one of our viewers sent us in, that the F-250 Tremor, the Super Duty Tremor XLT, which is like the base Tremor,
right,
was actually no longer available according to one dealer. And we confirmed it with Ford. Ford said they're going to discontinue the XLT Tremor Super Duty for 2022 model year. And then we got another email just recently saying that somebody did order one. So basically what's happening, according to Ford, that the chip shortage caused them to discontinue certain models. And this Tremor XLT was one of them. So yeah, that's another kind of a sad thing, because being affordable and being an off-road truck like this Tremor Super Duty with extra ground clearance, tires, lockers, limited slip in the front, and good capability, I think it's still available, just going to be a little bit more expensive.
So what do you think about this?
I'm upset.
Are you?
Well, because, like we said, everybody, I think, enjoys and wants a more affordable truck. So the fact that they're, slashing the base model, I don't like.
Well, even guy who said that he had an order in for an XLT is like, what's going on here? And if I get canceled out of my XLT order, because there could have been a timing issue there. You can't afford a Lariat. Like you just said, Lariat's out of my budget.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so what happens if that order is canceled or transitioned, to a Lariat or something else, and you're saying, no, I can no longer afford it. So,
Right.
yeah, that's a big issue.
It is a big issue. Andre, we've got another bid over at TFLbids.
Yes.
The 1997 K1500 is up to 6,200, it looks like. So that is climbing.
And that's worth it. With low miles, with the 5.7, the four-wheel drive, and actually the interior looks really nice on that truck. So yeah, I think people should bid.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So we're getting some questions. How is the Willys? Big debate, by the way, online. Is it Willys? Is it Willis? Because the guy technically was probably pronounced Willis, but it's Willys. So everyone says Willys. Even the folks over at Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, they say Willys.
Yeah.
So I'm going with it.
Let's go with that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
let's go with that.
apologize if I'm making some people upset there. It is very good. I've had it for a couple weeks now, week and a half, something like that. And it has exceeded my expectations. I was really worried I'd miss power windows, power door locks. Don't miss any of it. I mean, really, honestly, I leave it unlocked most of the time because the top down is most of the time. So I don't really need the power locks. The little radio, it's got the Uconnect, what is that, 3 or something?
4-inch screen or something?
Yeah, it's like a little postage stamp. It works
Yeah.
great. It's got Bluetooth. I just took it off-road for the first time with my dad this weekend.
And the video is coming as soon as tomorrow on TFL Off-Road channel.
Yeah, it's been really, really good. There are some things I don't like. For example, the seats still aren't very good. One of the issues is the bottom cushion just isn't long enough, and I'd still like it to go back another inch. But I really like the tan interior. Super happy with the V6 and the manual transmission. I'm getting 20.2 miles per gallon.
And it's just not even broken in.
On a mix, of city highway.
Okay.
It's
probably
great.
because it's lightweight.
It
right?
is. It's the lightest weight one you can buy in theory.
Yeah.
2-door soft top manual trans. I will say I did have like an aha moment off road with it, because all of a sudden it makes sense, those folks that don't want to take their vehicles off road because they have a huge payment on it or whatever. I don't have a huge payment on mine, but I still was a little afraid of getting it scratched up.
It's brand new.
Yeah, because it's a $31,000 investment. So that was a little stressful, but it was great. It was a really good trip. So that is working like a dream.
Yeah, remember when I took the F-150, my truck, off-road in the snow?
Yeah, and you hit the tree.
I was stressed out.
Oh, I felt so bad.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what else. So folks seem a little bit all over the board on what they think of the death of the diesel F-150.
And it kind of makes sense. I mean, some people like that type of engine, but once again, it didn't make a lot of sense considering everything else that Ford was doing.
Hunter says, anyway, we may see a small pickup with the diesel. I highly doubt it. The regulations and the rules surrounding diesels are so stringent now. It's hard for a company just to come out and say, look, here's another little diesel engine.
So, and also, the trend is away from diesel in smaller vehicles, actually.
Right.
Because Ford also had the Transit Connect initially was going to have a little diesel engine, and then the big Transit van was going to have a diesel engine. Remember? And then those engines never actually came to for sale in the U.S.
Right.
They're available in other markets around the world.
And I have to say, there's been a rumor for so long that the Tundra is going to have a diesel.
I doubt it.
Yeah, after
highly.
talking to the Toyota folks, I mean, that company is moving so far in the other direction from diesels. I mean, we're talking.
Well, they're looking like 10 years in the future.
Yeah, we're
right?
talking hybridization of absolutely everything. And
Electrification.
a couple of years ago, someone asked at this Evolution event I did where they brought out all the Toyota hybrids, they asked, are we going to see diesels in Toyota's future? And they're like, the company is not moving in that direction in the least.
So let's talk about this, because the new 2022 Land Cruiser just debuted in the rest of the world.
Yeah.
It's going to be available in Asian markets, Australia, Middle East, I think even South America in some countries. And it came out with a diesel engine. So they have a new 3.3 liter turbo diesel. So that's available in some markets like in Australia and others. But they have different emissions regulations, right?
Right.
Like you said. So that engine is probably not coming to the US. They also have the new twin turbo V6, the 3.5 liter in the Toyota Land Cruiser that probably is coming. We don't know about hybrids yet because it didn't release any numbers. But thanks to our viewer, and we have this on TFLtruck.com, one of our viewers went to a dealership in UAE and saw a Land Cruiser right there in the showroom. and took pictures of it, and it has a center locker, like a lot of them did, right?
Yeah, very common.
Which is basically a transfer case,
Yep.
right? Four-wheel drive transfer case that appropriates power front and back.
Yep.
And then it has two extra buttons, one for the front locker and one for the rear locker in this Land Cruiser. It also has turn assist, where you drag one of the rear tires to make a tighter turn. Land Cruiser had that previously. It also has crawl control, which it had previously.
Yep.
So, do you think the next Tundra could have triple lockers?
I mean, Andre, the current Tundra has no lockers, so it would be quite the big jump to go to triple from 0. I think I'm going to lean with...
It has a traction control system. It has limited slip right now.
Yeah, I'm surprised that the 300 series was spotted with the 300 series, the new Land Cruiser, with a front and rear locking diff. I think the last time we saw one of those in the U.S. was like 1990 something in the 80 series. It was like there was like a couple of years later a triple lock Land Cruiser, and that's like the holy grail. Andre, I don't know.
I don't think every Land Cruiser will come this way, or every Tundra could come this way. And by the way, Toyota has not released any Tundra specs. We've just seen like 3 images that they unveiled. The truck, the look of it from the front. We have an engine picture that looks like a hybrid, and we have like an interior picture, right, that shows like the top of the dash.
Yeah.
So that's all we know officially about the Tundra. But this is very interesting. They can use a lot of these technologies because they share the platform with the Land Cruiser.
It's going to be very interesting to see what Toyota does with the new Tundra. I mean, we've seen a couple pictures of it. It looks pretty cool. The thing that, and I've said this before and I've gotten it wrong and I've been corrected a bunch, the kind of current thought right now is that if you look at the current Tundra and the outgoing Land Cruiser, the 200 series, that they're pretty much identical underneath. And it's true that the 5.7 V8 and the transmission are pretty similar, the 3UR engine. But apart from that, very different vehicles underneath. And even like suspension members, some are interchangeable, but oftentimes it's not the case where you can put Tundra parts on a Land Cruiser. There are certain bits you can, but they are very different underneath. Even like the way the transfer case is integrated with the full-time system on the Land Cruiser versus the part-time on the Toyota, on the Tacoma, or on the Land Cruiser or on the Tundra, whatever. You get the point. They have different transfer cases. So they're not, a Land Cruiser is not just a Tundra with a different top on it. Very different underneath, and built in a different plant. Right, Land Cruisers have always been built in this one plant in Japan, along with the Lexus.
And of course, Tundra is built in Texas.
Right, and I think they're also built to different quality standards. I know Toyota really puts a lot of effort. Not to say the Tundra's a bad truck. Tundras will go for 1 million miles, if you take care of them.
We've seen it.
We've seen it. But Land Cruisers, for the most part, are built for much more extreme situations of consistent off-road use. It's like the 25-year standard, so it's interesting.
Yeah, but I think what's happening is, and once again, we don't know a lot about this, is that there's some consolidation of components, right? So I'm hoping they have more in common than before. Ron says, did TFL own a Lincoln from the 70s, and who did it belong to?
Yes, I had a Lincoln from the 70s. It was my grandfather's Lincoln. It was a 78 Continental Mark V Diamond Jubilee. Yes,
and we have several videos with that Lincoln.
Yes.
It's no longer here.
No, it was not. It was a long story, but it was not meant for this planet, Andre. Unfortunately, it spent 35 years 9 feet from the ocean. And so you'd be amazed at the amount of rust everywhere.
Well, we have the hood from the car that we kept, and it's in our studio.
And I still have the diamond in the window and the original owner's manual, and I donated it to NPR. And what they do is they then send it across the auction, and they give you back on your taxes what it sells for. Well, it turns out it didn't sell for anything, and I know that because they gave me $500 back, which is like the scrapping fee. So that was kind of a sad ending. But
sad. HA donated $3, $2.99. Thank you for your support.
Yeah, that was very nice of you. I appreciate it. Honestly, my grandfather hated stuff that would just like sit around and rot, and he would have been appalled if he had seen this Lincoln. So he would have wanted me to sell it.
So it's taken care of.
Anyways, what other news do we have of the week?
I think the bidding went up to $7,000 on this GMC.
Sweet, dude.
So let me reload. Sometimes you have to reload the page to get the latest and greatest information.
Very cool.
Only 3 minutes left.
Yeah, and like we've been talking about, those old body style GMCs and Chevys
they're exploding in
Kind of
value
missed the
right
boat
now.
on them. So what other news do we have going on this week, Andre? Anything else that's really pressing?
So the team actually, so Roman and I are going to Chicago tomorrow. So this week, so stay tuned for that.
What are you doing in Chicago?
In Chicago, there's a Chicago Auto Show. You know how it's normally in February?
Yes.
Well, they're having it in July. It opens up, I believe, like Wednesday night and Thursday and Friday and Saturday. So the main open admission starts like somewhere on Thursday, like I said, goes through the weekend. We're going to be there a little bit before that because they usually have media day.
Very cool.
For media. So we're going to see some of the trucks and cars and SUVs that they're going to have there. And we'll do several videos. A lot of the show, I heard, is actually outdoors. So I don't know a lot about it. I'm going to go there on Tuesday night and see it. So that's coming up very soon. And we should have, I want to really see in person the Maverick, right? Because I haven't seen it in person. There should be a Lightning. There should be many Broncos there. So if you want to see some of those new vehicles, including the new Ram GT pickup truck, the new Ram that was just announced today, the new Backcountry package, which is a new four-wheel drive Ram 1500 for 2022. Remember they had the Outdoorsman? Like this off-roady, cool-looking Ram 1500. Well, this is like the next iteration of that.
Are they going to have that new truck where they put the shifter on the console? Isn't there that new?
Oh yes,
the GT.
yeah. The GTs now have the TRX shifter,
which is good.
So so if you like the rotary dial or the shifter, console shifter, you can have it either way now.
People are super divisive on that. I remember I did a video a while back saying that folks didn't like the rotary dial because that seemed to be the attitude on the internet.
And then people loved it.
And then everyone came and yelled at me and said they love the rotary dial. So yes. I don't know, maybe the location of the shifter is not as important as I thought it was once.
And other trucks like the Tahoe now have like this push-pull button system. So there's many different systems for shifting now.
Yeah, pretty cool. Whoa, up to 7,100 on this GMC. Dave Murphy coming in with $10.
Oh, wow. Thanks,
you. Dave. Very appreciated.
Thank you for supporting us. That's huge.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what's going on at the Chicago Auto Show this year. Hopefully we'll see some news from Jeep as well.
Yeah, there's some Jeep news that's coming. Stay tuned tomorrow night and then Wednesday for some extra Jeep news. And maybe we'll see the Extreme Recon. I want to see that.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I think you'll see the Bronco there too,
yep.
right?
Several Broncos. And they have, I think, they're supposed to have this little track where you can actually, like a Jeep experience.
Yeah, like we
now it's like a Ford experience.
You know Land Rover got rid of those at their dealerships?
Yeah, I heard about this.
Yeah, apparently they were just taking up too much lot space. But that was like the coolest part about going to a Land Rover experience.
I did it once. Yeah. It was very impressive.
So Land Rover used to do this thing a few years ago where you'd pull up to your dealer, and if you wanted to try out a vehicle, they set up this cool little off-road course with these moguls and these hills you climb. It was all artificial.
And sideways tilt.
Yeah, but it was like a cool thing to go to a Land Rover dealer and like see folks test driving LR4s and stuff up in these really cool little areas. So I really like that. I'm sad to get rid of it.
My computer is saying that somebody bid on this GMC $8,222.
Jeez. That's crazy, dude.
That could be huge. And by the way, the auction will extend for a couple minutes when there is last-minute bidding.
Okay.
So it gives people an opportunity to respond.
Andre, TFLbids is going to corner the market on old body-style Chevys at this point.
So if you have a 90s GM truck, please let us know.
Honestly, I think it's a good time for them to really shine. After driving that white one we had, I really fell in love with that truck, and I thought it was one of the best trucks I've ever driven, actually, just from a design usability standpoint, practicality, longevity. Ours had 200,000 miles.
It was over 200,000.
They just go forever.
And this truck that's on sale right now has like 103,000, so very low miles.
They just keep going and going forever. When will Ford release the Ranger Raptor in the U.S.? Oh, wouldn't I love to know, too.
So here's the thing, and this is not official, this is what we just are kind of learning, is they have prototypes running. Camouflage trucks that look to be the next generation Ranger. And so this generation is still here. The Ranger Tremor is out already for sale, of course. So I think Ford is going to wait to the next generation truck, maybe 2023 model year, maybe 24-ish, depending on what they do. So we don't know, but I'm guessing the Raptor might come later, not in the next year or two.
I'm not sure they're even going to bring it over, Andre.
You don't think
to
so?
be
'Cause
honest,
it's
I
gonna
think
step on the other vehicles.
what I'm thinking they're going to do, and this is not confirmed. This is just me kind of spitballing. I think they're going to do a pickup truck version of the Bronco, and then that will be their off-road mid-size truck.
And it could be really powerful
Like,
and really cool.
Compete with the Gladiator. That's what we're going to do. So then Ranger would kind of cut into that. Someone's coming at me here. I don't know why anyone would want a 3.6 over the 2.0 turbo in the Jeep. Woo, strong fighting words. We had a 2-liter turbo for a while at the office.
We did.
And
We bought it as a long term.
unpopular opinion, I really didn't like the 2-liter very much.
But it also gave us some issues with the e-torque system.
Yeah, the e-torque system, and that's kind of changed around a little bit. Now the 2-liter, I think, comes standard without it.
Right.
That wasn't my issue. It was just like such a high-strung little engine, and it sounded like a Dyson. And like it would just make way too much torque right at the low end of the RPM
So
range.
just like spin the
So
tires.
you'd be like off-road, and you'd like tap the throttle, and it'd be like turbo, turbo, and then you'd be whoa. So I'm not really a big fan of that 2-liter turbo in the Wrangler. I much prefer the 3.6. Like it doesn't do anything very well. The 3.6 isn't like, oh, if you got a 3.6, might do. That is it. I mean, it's a corporate V6, but they've built millions of them. I was talking to a master tech. And we were just kind of spitballing in the wind. He said it's his one of his favorite engines in that lineup because they just go like 200,
and it's
250,000.
also the base engine. It's the most affordable.
It doesn't have direct injection. None of it. It's really like just blah. It's just a solid lump of an engine that goes forever.
But it still has 285 horsepower.
Yeah, I mean it's not as fast as a 2-liter at altitude, right? It doesn't feel all that quick. But yeah, it does everything it needs to do. Where's the Buhanka? Where's your little red van?
Oh, hi. So I'm actually, you don't see this, but I have a map. Actually, hold on a second. I'm tracking a vessel. So it's on a vessel called Lars Myers.
The Ever Given. It's stuck in the Suez Canal.
Yes, and right now it's in the Mediterranean Sea. So I'm monitoring the Buhanka. It's on a ship, and it's heading to New Jersey soon. So, if everything goes well and there's no hurricanes and nothing else preventing it from coming here, then it should be here within like 3 or 4 weeks.
Wow, that fast.
Yes.
Is it coming on, it's on the Pacific? I'm sorry, I wasn't really paying attention.
Sorry, it's in the Mediterranean Sea, so it's going to cross the Atlantic.
Oh, it's crossing the Atlantic.
Yeah, it's crossing.
Interesting.
It's like the Titanic, except it's a
Don't say that. The Buhanka will survive anything that you put it through. I just saw a cool review before we wrap up here. The Lada Niva, I guess you can still buy.
Yes, and the
And-
Buhanka you can still buy.
And they just updated the Lada Niva. And now you can get it with alloy wheels and air conditioning
lot
and
of cool
radio.
stuff,
And yeah,
yeah.
it looked pretty cool, I have to say. One other thing we should touch on, which I think is interesting. So last week was the Stellantis
EV Day.
EV Day,
Yes.
right? And they had some truly ridiculous catch lines they came up with.
The green car is for all.
No, there's some.
I got that wrong.
It's like
So-
light up the pavement, not the environment, or
tear up the streets,
not the planet.
tear up the streets, not that, was
a
Dodge.
That was a Dodge line.
There's some. Okay.
So here, Stellantis has 14 companies, 14 brands
Jeez, dude.
underneath it. And most of them and all of them are actually switching to hybrid or electric. This was focused on not on the hybrids. It was focused on the electric stuff. And I know this because I was listening to their presentation while I was flying last week.
It was a long presentation.
It was like a 2-hour presentation.
Right, and they talked about their electric future, but they teased some profiles of some cool vehicles. And one of the vehicles they teased was from the Jeep brand, and it looked to be this little baby 4-wheel drive.
Yeah, like a 2-door.
It looked like you took a Wrangler and you put it in the fridge, and it went whoop.
Squished it. It looked like a Jimny.
You know how excited I'd be if they came out with like a little tiny affordable
And you know
Jeep?
what? I was actually listening to almost all of the presentation. And Ralph Gilles, their chief designer at Stellantis, he said, and listen to this, he called it a white space Jeep vehicle.
white space. Oh,
Yes.
very interesting.
And in automotive industry speak, that means like a segment that hasn't existed before for the company. They want to create a new vehicle. So,
All right.
So that could be very interesting. Maybe a little Jimny thing.
I think that would be super cool. I really would like an affordable small 4-wheel drive. I am very nervous about the future of specifically the Jeep brand with this new French ownership. and I know maybe it's just nothing to get worried about, but I'm not sure the French brands really understand the whole 4x4 thing to the extent that the Americans do, right?
So when I was watching the presentation,
Yeah.
They went to almost every brand, not 100%, not all 14, but they said something like, hey, let's go to Opel in Germany, and hey, let's go to Jeep in Detroit. And they actually, transported you on the map, and you went to Detroit, and you listened to the Jeep presentation, and then you listened to, the Ram presentation from Detroit. And so it seemed like they were respecting where those vehicles came from.
Yes. Well,
that's what it seemed like. It was a corporate event.
I know. I've heard just some rumblings of, there's some rumors going on that maybe we may see like a front-wheel drive car-based Jeep. Have you heard about that? That's been a rumor floating around the internet. I'm worried that the French the French are very good at building cars, and they build some of the best and most interesting cars in the world.
Yes.
But four-wheel drives are not something that's typically
or pickup
in the
trucks.
wheel.
They don't do a lot of pickup trucks.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit worried about that.
So
they didn't do a great, let me put it this way. Last thing I'll say about it. They didn't do a great job with Jeep in the 80s. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They brought out the Le Car. They put a Peugeot transmission in the Comanche, and it was like not an amazing
not the
time
best
for
years.
right.
Not the best years.
Yes.
So, well, hopefully this time will be different, right? So I think the auction have closed, all the auctions, and this GMC, I think it broke some records because it looks like it sold for $8,200.
Wow, that's awesome. Very, very cool.
So I think the new owner and the previous owner, I think both are happy because it's a good truck.
Right. For sure. That's really cool. One last question before we leave here, Andre. Tell me, with your love of hybrids, what's your take on Jeep's effort on going that direction with the upcoming Gladiator and using the 2-liter? I drove the e-Torque Wrangler, or not the e-Torque Wrangler, the 4xe Wrangler, the plug-in hybrid.
Yes.
I thought it was really fun. I think the hybrid powertrain kind of masked some of my issues with the 2-liter being kind of a little jerky and herky. And the hybrid powertrain was really cool, and I hope to see some more electrified pickups. I think some of the hardcore truck folks are excited about the plug-in hybrid technology because you can have on-road
and quiet driving or whatever.
Yeah, and then when you run out of battery, bring on gasoline power. I'm more on the fence about plug-in hybrids. I kind of think in some ways they're like the worst of electricity and the worst of gas because you don't get the amazing efficiency of electricity because you're lugging around a big gas engine, and then you don't get the benefit of a gas engine having that high power density because you're lugging around dead batteries. But for some folks, if your commute is within that like 20 miles or whatever it'll be, EV range, then yeah, I think it makes sense.
But there's no range anxiety because the gasoline engine
and I
takes
think
over.
it's a good stepping stone to a full electric. Now that I'm all in with the Spark EV, it's hard to go back to plug-in hybrids, but I totally understand the appeal there.
Yeah.
Cool.
And by the way, Ford has started delivering Broncos. There's a question about this.
It's kind of a debacle from what I've been reading on the forums, but
yeah, but there are pictures of Broncos
yes,
at dealers.
People are finally getting them, which is really, really cool to hear. And they need to start. I mean, they got to have their foot on the gas to get those things out the door as soon as possible. So we'll see.
Anyway, so there you have it. So thank you for joining us as always. Stay tuned to this channel, TFLnow, and of course TFL Truck and TFL Off-Road, TFL Car, because we're going to have some videos from the Chicago Auto Show this week, and then join us next week for more fun.
More everything. Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
I got to go use my electrical